Yes.
Okay? You
Yes. The
have
red
to
flag.
know the red flags. For example, here's a good example. This happened to a friend of mine. She went out with this guy 3 times, and they went to this kind of expensive restaurant. 3 times he told her he left his wallet at home.
Ah,
No, 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 no. The first time you might say, okay, maybe he did forget it, but you're going to pay me back. The second time, no, you don't get a third time. She
wow.
went out with him 3 times, and he told her 3 times that he left his wallet at home. And another friend of mine had a relationship with a guy who every time they were with his family, he was disrespectful to his mother and to his sister. That's a red flag. If they don't know how to treat their mother and they don't know how to treat their sisters, they will not know how to treat you. So there are lots and lots of red flags, and they wave ferociously. You have to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
And don't just think you can ignore them and they're not going to exist. So
Yeah.
you have to be
And
smart.
people do that. They see the signs, and at the end, when things finally come to a halt, well, yeah, there were signs. Yeah, but you chose to ignore them. And
Exactly.
the signs are always there. We choose not, to realize, okay, that means something's not right. I need to back up. I need to, exit out of this before I get too far into this relationship. Signs are always there. We just refuse to see them or accept them because, we may be really liking this person or really just feel like we need this relationship to work because the other ones didn't. And we clamp on to something that we shouldn't.
Exactly.
Absolutely right.
Beware of those red flags. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to let go. Stop rehearsing the pain. And what I mean by that is stop telling somebody every single day how much this person hurt you, or listening to the music that you guys used to listen to. Or
I was just talking about that the other day too. Yes.
Just going back over, looking at the gifts that he might have bought you, or just still being in that place.
Yep.
If you don't want betrayal to devastate you, then you have to move on. You have to let go.
Yeah.
And stop rehearsing and sharing it about just talking about the hurt. I know you probably had some friends that you see them coming and you know what they're going to talk about because
you try to make a beeline the other way, hoping they don't see you.
Going back over that hurt again. Girl, what he did to me, and you already know because you've told me 1,000 times what he did to you. So you need to stop rehearsing the pain and let it go. That's a real important thing. And then the last part of this one, in really being smart about your relationships, is don't be so quick to blame. Women are very quick to blame the other woman. But some of these guys are smart. They never even tell the woman that they are in a relationship, or they may not even tell them that they're married or whatever. You need to investigate to find out. It may be both of their faults. Maybe she was pushy and it's her fault. But we seem as women to always go to the woman. Oh, she took my man. Yeah. No, he went. So he bears some blame because he was in the relationship with you. He was the one sharing with you. He should have been the stronger one to walk away. Yeah. So that's my third point, to be smart about relationships and be careful who you let into your heart.
Okay.
So fourth, ready for that one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The fourth one, open your heart to God. Don't shut God out because you are hurt. Let God in. Go beyond what you probably have been doing. Study his word. Don't just say, I'm going to read his word. Study his word. And one of the hardest things to do, Miss Burt, is well, I'll put it this way. It's easy to say I believe in God, because you can look around and know that there has to be something greater than yourself. You can't measure the stuff. You could scoop up a handful of sand. You can't count the grains. You can't tell how much water is in the ocean. You know there's something greater than yourself. So when you say I believe in God, that's not that hard. But to say I believe God, that's the harder part. Yeah. Like when you believe him, when you read his word and you believe his promises, you believe when he says, lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge me and I'll direct your path. And you wait for him to direct your path. You believe that. When he says, call to me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things that you do not know. See, God has secrets. And that's one of my favorite scriptures. That's the scripture that I have on my website, because it has 3 parts to that. Call to me. It's God saying you have an invitation always to come to me. No matter what your situation is, no matter what the circumstances are around you, come to me, call to me. And then he says, I will answer you. He doesn't say I might, I'll think about it, I'm not sure. He said, I will answer you. And then he says, and show you great and mighty things that you do not know, which says to me that he has some secrets. But he will open up those secrets to you if you allow him to come into your life. Yeah. And even in our hurt and in our despair, if we would but just come to Christ, if we would yield our lives and surrender to him, he will show you great and mighty things. I will tell you, Ms. Burt, if somebody had told me 10 years ago that you're going to be a writer and you're going to write books, you're going to write novels that teach young people how to live a life of serenity in their relationships, I would have told you, I don't know, I may be writing some poems, but I don't think I'll be writing any novels. But we can't see around God's corner. We don't know what is going to come. But when we surrender to him, and like when I was trying to write that devotional guide and he said, no, I want you to write about betrayal. I can't tell you how many opportunities I've had to sit with young people and really give them some instructions about how to manage relationships. I never will forget, this young lady had read Jagged Edges, and she told me, she said, Miss Jancy, I really want to be like your Ariana. I want to be a strong woman like her. And I said, and you can be. You just have to make the decision. She said, but I don't want to be lonesome. And sometimes these guys just won't be your friend if you don't do everything they want. I said, but then you have to know what you want. Do you want that for your life? And I was able to sit with her and talk with her. And I can't tell you the end of the story because I haven't seen her since that time. But I did have that opportunity to share that with her. So my 4th point is open up your heart to God. Grow with him. Let him give you his promises. And he will stick with his promises. And my last point, the 5th point. You ready for that one? Did you want to make a comment? Okay. 5th point is the hardest one of all. Forgive. You have to be able to forgive. A lot of people feel like, I can't forgive. I'm not saying forget. You're not going to forget it. But you must forgive it. And the forgiveness is not for the person who perpetrated the betrayal on you. It's for you. It's so that you can move on in your life and you don't have to hold all of this anger and this resentment and feel like you've been done in, where you can't move, where you're at a point like Summer, where she wanted to commit suicide. You don't want your life to be like that. So you want to release all of that. I'll tell you an experience that I had with a young lady that I was doing some edits for her. And she told me that she had not spoken to her sister in 10 years. And she said, we had a misunderstanding and it hurt me so badly, I just can't talk with her. And it took me some while, but I told her, I said, you really need to call your sister, because they were living in 2 different states by that time. I said, you need to call your sister. You need to reach out to her. I said, it'll do you a lot of good. And I would tell her that every time we talked, I would ask her, have you talked with your sister? No, I just can't do it, Miss Dancy. I just can't do it. And one day she called me and she said, Miss Dancy, I've been praying. And God has told me to call my sister, just like you've been telling me. And so I'm going to call her tonight. And I said, well, please call me tomorrow and let me know how it went. Mm-hmm. She called me the next day and she said, my sister and I stayed on the phone all night long. She said, we could not let each other go. And she said, I feel like a weight has just been lifted from me. She said, I actually feel lighter. I don't have that feeling in my heart that I had before. And she said, and she told me some things that made me understand why she did the things that she did. And I understand them now. And she said, and I love my sister and I love her more tonight than I've ever loved her in my life. Mm-hmm. And that's the lesson that we have to learn, that even though sometimes we feel hurt in life, we have to let those things go and we have to forgive. If we don't want to be devastated in our betrayals, and a lot of us are betrayed in different ways.
Yeah.
If we don't want to get devastated in it, then we have to forgive and we have to let go. So those are my points.
I know with before I got on the broadcast with you, we're talking my cousin and I were talking, and she was like, we talk about forgiveness, and sometimes it's just really hard to let go, because I think about 1982 when this, you did this to me, and I'm still mad about it, but you can't confront that person. There's sometimes where people have died. Yeah. And they still holding that anger in. Like I said, I'm just gonna be transparent. Like my father passed. My father had never seen me run track ever. Mm-hmm. I would, come home with gold medals and accolades in it, all metro, all of that great stuff. He'd never seen me run track. Mm-hmm. He was on his dying bed when he told me how proud he was of me. Mm-hmm. With all the medals and all the accolades. And I wanted to say, I wish you would have told me that earlier, because mm-hmm. that would have changed a whole lot for me. Because it's not that he was in the household, it was a sport that didn't interest him, and he just didn't partake in it. That was something my mom did, coming up. She was a great track runner. And so it bothered me, and he never told me, like, I love you. Or, like girls want to hear from the dad. Right. He was not that type of man. He was not raised in a household where, he was told I love you, or, great job. He was not raised in that kind of household. So he didn't know how to give that kind of affection to his daughters. And so for me, it was so much I wanted to say and do, but he was on his dying bed. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And some things I really was angry with him. Like, why didn't you tell me this earlier? And I was really, really hurt when he passed away. And I was more hurt because I couldn't communicate with him anymore. Mm-hmm. I couldn't forgive him. I'm like, dude, if you'd have told me this, if you'd have showed me this, I may have made different decisions in my life. Mm-hmm. He just how he was brought up. And I had to understand, I had to come to peace with his father died when he was 13 years old. He was raised by, just a single mom. My grandmother owned her own hair salon that was in the back of the house. And that was just never a part of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn those things after the fact, that he had, when he passed, well, what kind of life did he, household was it? What kind of life did he have? You know, and just learning the ins and outs of what kind of father my grandfather was, you know, um, and the life that he had. And so once I started learning, I was able to understand why he was, and how he was because of his upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to forgive and treasure the memories that we did have. If that makes any sense.
It does make a lot of sense. And that's the thing we have to come to grips with. Sometimes we don't know a person's background, just like the young lady I'm talking about. She didn't understand why her sister did what she did. But after they talked all night long, she learned some things that she didn't know. Mm-hmm. And she was able to understand those things, just like you were learning some things about your father that you didn't know. Yeah. See, a lot of times we don't understand the road they've walked.
Right.
And we don't understand why they do the things that they do. And that's why it's so important for us to just forgive so that we can move on. Maybe they couldn't move on, but we can. Mm-hmm. If we accept Christ as our personal Savior, and if we forgive, because God forgives us, so why shouldn't we forgive others? We sin all the time. And we can go to him, and the minute you say, Lord, please forgive me, then you're forgiven. Yes. So why do we hold so much? Yes. So if you don't want to be devastated in betrayal, these are the things that you have to do. And one of the biggest ones is forgiveness. And I write in my book a lot about forgiveness, because that's what people have the hardest time doing. They don't seem to understand that the forgiveness is for them. It's not for the person who hurt them. Yeah. If they can forgive, then they can release all of that anger and all of that trauma that they go through. I've seen people who have been so angry for so long that they actually have the markings on their face. The frown is permanently there.
Yeah.
Because they have been that angry and that hurt for that long. So we don't have to live like that. We have to remember that it's not what happens to you in life. It's how you react to what happens to you. And in betrayal, you have to be a grown-up. And you have to really decide, I'm going to live my life, and I'm not going to give anybody my power.
Absolutely. So real quick, I just want to let you guys know that you can go to dreamsempowermentnetwork.org, go to About Us, click the 2019 Women in Power webinar series. Click that. It will take you to the page with all the speakers for this series, how to get in contact with them. And you can also register so that you will be able to receive these speakers for the week and next week, because I will be removing them off of Facebook. You'll no longer be able to see them on Facebook. So make sure you register so that you'll be able to tune in and put these speakers in your power tool, your arsenal of education, inspiration, however you want to put it. You want to make sure you have this so you can plug it in your ears and get rejuvenated and find that power to, push on, whether it's your personal, whether it's your business. This web, we're giving you this information free, guys. We can't pass up education. This is power right here. This is Miss Dorsey, Miss Nancy is giving you power. This has been a wonderful, wonderful week of great speakers, guys. I can't express how proud I am at this point for having these speakers come and be transparent and be powerful in an expert and what they're talking about and teaching this week. So again, I want to thank Miss. I'm going blank for a second. Thank our sponsor, Ms. O Arts. That's Ms. MZ O _ art. You can find her on Instagram. She's a great artist. She'll have beautiful fantasy art. She does commission work. Check her out. Guys, next week, we're going into our last week. Actually, Monday is our last segment. Contessa Louise with meditation for business success and more. And Don Mason, five days to a spiritual breakthrough. So I can't wait. I cannot wait for Monday to come around. I'm just so excited. So excited about, like I said, all these great, amazing speakers that participating these last 2 weeks on the Women in Power webinar series. I thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Miss Dancy, for this wonderful 5 points. It's been amazing time with you. I appreciate your time. I had somehow got things going on 2 pages, but
well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed myself.
Yes, it has been an awesome pleasure to have you, and I look forward to working with you again on some other things. I definitely will let you know about the next Black Authors Expo that'll be coming up. This year we'll be going to Greensboro, North Carolina. So we'll be back in the area again. So guys, make sure you register so you can get all of the speakers, because again, we will be removing them from the Facebook page. So that's just the FYI. You guys have a great weekend. And as I always say, remember, you have to dream big to win big. Good night, guys. I love you.
Good night.